Hello and welcome to Play Media, your gaming growth partner. My name is Sean Callanan. I'm here with my co-founder and co-host Chris Derrick. Chris, welcome to the show.
G'day, Sean. G'day,
The,
gamers. What our friends don't know is it's taken us 4 takes and 2 days to do this, so delighted to be here.
and there we go. We've automatically, as we want to do on this show, pulled back the curtain on the workings and inner workings of everything gaming and everything related, and we are not immune to it. So first of all, we want to start with what caught my eye recently. We had the Super Bowl played in
Mhm.
America, at the NFL in Tampa Bay. But what we were paying attention to a lot from our discussion last week, where gaming, pop culture, intersecting, entwined, whatever we want to say. Again, we saw a lot of ads in the Super Bowl featuring the world of gaming. These were three that caught my eye, Chris. But I mean, how many
Yep.
was there in total?
I think about half a dozen, six or so in total. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the intersection of culture with gaming, with music, with sports, athletes. We saw that all in these ads, but we also, another part of it is the intersection of media and marketing. And again, the Super Bowl is a great example of that. And we've really seen these examples highlight that.
Yeah, so the ones there, we've got LA Lakers star Anthony Davis in a Michelob Ultra ad. And again, it wasn't about gaming, but it was pretty much, hey, how do athletes chill? What do they do in their spare time? Like Anthony Davis is there, probably playing some NBA 2K or some FIFA, like we discussed. Then we've got a real esports slant there with Nate Shot, one of the founders of 100 Thieves, a big esports team and content creator company, featured in the Rockstar Energy drink ad with a whole bunch of different people, skateboarders and snowboarders and the like. And then, yeah, we can't have a Super Bowl with having Samuel L. Jackson appear in a few Super Bowls, and this time he did it virtually as an avatar inside a game, effectively talking about one of the biggest problems gamers are facing is lagging internet. So, yeah, the graph for gaming ads in the Super Bowl is going up and to the right. We will continue to update our decks with different examples. We don't need to keep talking about Ninja being featured in Super Bowl ads as being big news because it's sort of
No.
like the thing to be done. So please check it out. If you pretty much Google Super Bowl ads, you'll see them all. Some absolute crackers in there. What we
What's interesting, Sean, as well on that is the Anthony Davis one is an ad for a beer,
hmm,
and a beer company using an athlete is relatively unheard of in this country. So it would be interesting to see if that's a trend that picks up as well.
Definitely, especially as it pitches into the lifestyle space and just part of our general life, and also more consumption of a lot of things at home in the current environment. Now what we want to do is to get into the big question. The big question this week is, how do brands maximize streaming campaigns? So what do we mean by that? What we aren't going to do is we're not going to cover ground that we've already covered. So way back in episode 3, for those people who've been listening and watching since the beginning, you know this. We went through all the different options that gaming streamers could offer brands, the different options. So if you want to know the mechanics and the different pieces of the puzzle, go back to that episode, because this time what we're going to be doing is looking at how to structure these campaigns and some of the missteps and mistakes that potentially happen, and also how we go about doing it. So we're going to start with sort of looking at what goes wrong, where have mistakes been made, and what are some of the key areas you want to be keeping an eye on when you are putting together a brief around gaming and streaming campaign. Chris, what are some of the things that you want to look at to not end up in the what goes wrong category?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the first thing that I'd highlight isn't just related to gaming and streaming briefs. It's kind of any media brief, and it's getting the planning and the brief right.
Yep.
And one of the things that we see is that a lot of the campaigns using streamers. Not really planned with what I would consider to be actionable insights or measurable KPIs coming off the back of them. They're just trading off a bit of that cultural currency that we've talked about earlier. They're doing it to be cool, to be in the space. They think they're doing it for brand awareness, but they're not even measuring that. So, really, to set up a campaign in this space, you need to think about what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to measure that, and make sure that the execution of it, the brief to the streamer, is done in a really consistent way that you can measure that later.
Yeah, and it's a both sides things. It is brands being, looking to get into the gaming space, which is, if you're looking to do that, please give us a call. But then also streamers becoming the new hot market, and the, gaining the attention. And so it's a bit of, streamers don't quite know what to tell brands of what they can offer and what their audience is and what they can do, and not quite knowing that piece. But then also the brands, like you said, not having a definitive enough brief to say these are the outcomes we want. And then the other piece is more in the, I guess, the execution piece, Chris.
And I think on the execution piece, you got to look at the streamer, right? They're playing the game, they're engaging with their audience. That's hard work. That takes a lot of effort to do over a long period of time. People are streaming for 3, 6 longer hours, multiple days a week, just engaging that audience, playing the game, being good at the game. It helps if you're good and entertaining. That's a lot of hard work. So to actually be able to deliver the brand message or the product message, the call to action, do that consistently in the right way is one, that's difficult. Two, you can't really continually just keep repeating that message because that's not what the audience are tuning in for. Once or twice is okay, but really, how many times can you have that? You're also relying on them to put it in the title, put the logo on the screen, have the logo in the right place, have the right call to action in the chat, referencing all of these things, which really these a lot of these streamers have just come up being really good at playing games, or maybe they're DJing or playing music, or they're doing something else on Twitch or YouTube or something that's entertaining and has grown their audience. They haven't necessarily had professional training in the media side, in the commercial side, on how to do these things. So you're really sort of putting a lot of faith in the hands of them and making them do a lot of the heavy lifting, whereas that often comes with some of these problems of what goes wrong.
Yeah, and it is that manual integration. You're asking a streamer, here's our logo, here's our message. Can you make sure it gets posted at this time? And
Yeah.
if a game is, if they're into the game, they forget, or they're into a specific chat, or whatever. So it is that manual piece, and I liken a lot to like that early influencer piece where you are sending a text and sending some graphics to someone to post on a social channel, and sometimes the copy wouldn't be quite right, or you have the the complete stuff up of please paste here influencer, and they actually paste
Yeah.
the whole text, like those kind of things. And that there's a lot of heavy lifting and manual integration, and I guess spots where things can go wrong. And I guess the other piece, sort of looking at that posting strategy, is
Mm.
how much heavy lifting is done by social or not done by social, depending on the influencer and how they, and the streamer, and how they understand to use those platforms. So like
Yeah.
it as an, and it's sort of sold as an ancillary piece to the streaming option, but it's actually quite valuable if executed correctly.
Yeah, the live stream piece, as I said, you've got that challenge of how often you can reference the brand or talk about this partnership that you've got. It's sort of limited, and therefore it's limited to the people that are watching live at that time. Whereas social media is that feed that people are catching up on, whether they're having a quick break, or they're taking the time in the day to go through their feeds. They'll see it whenever. It doesn't necessarily have to be at that time. So it's a good way to draw attention from that streamer, that they've got some that partnership, they've got content coming up. They can see the highlights of what they've done with you. Maybe you've got them to do a product shoot, or a quick review or something like that. Social is a really key part of it, and again, the planning and the measurement of that needs to be done in consideration with the streaming piece as well.
And it gives the campaign far more longevity than, oh, we're activating and streaming on a Tuesday in March.
Yeah.
Because content that can be living on other platforms, and specifically looking at that long tail piece in the YouTube space, like someone might discover your content and your brand messaging and your call to action
Yeah.
months after an activation. If again in
Yeah.
your planning piece you've done it right, so you're not just getting that sugar hit of, isn't it
Yeah.
amazing? Look how many viewers we that tuned into the stream
Yeah.
for this one event.
the brands that we see where we think that could be improved, they do that sugar hit. They do it's one stream on one Tuesday night, and they think that that's going to move the needle. The brands that we see doing it right, and one of the examples that we love to talk about is Bud Light. They've got their own channel, they're streaming their own stuff, they've got their own schedule. People know that they're consistently there, and that they're consistently going to get content there that just happens to be brought to you by Bud Light. So you can have a halfway sort of position there. You can work with streamers, but just do it a bit more regularly. Have your branding, your messaging, your content coming through more regularly. The one sort of hit sort of thing isn't really going to move the needle.
Yeah, terrific. So looking at that, what we want to do is sort of go through how do we do it and sort of step through the process, from a brand marketer to say, hey, we want to do a streaming campaign. Chris, you want to go through how we would step a brand through our process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to highlight about how we do it is that we're letting technology do the heavy working. We're not asking the streamer to do it. And so we've got some tech exclusively in this territory that allows the campaign to be automated in terms of how it's applied to a streamer's campaign. So all the streamer needs to do is play the game and stream the content. We've worked with them in the back end with the technology beforehand that the creative gets inserted before it hits the streaming platform. The streamer's there, the audience is watching it, and hey, they're seeing that branded message. It could be an animation, it could be a video, it could be a poll, it could be a QR code. Generally speaking, there's a call to action related to it. There's links in the chat, etc. The same way. You can run these at a multiple occasion because it's just sort of in the background. It's not impacting the gameplay. The streamer doesn't have to do anything. They can talk about it, and particularly if chat's asking them about it, they can interact with it, but they don't have to manually think about what they're doing. It just happens. And the best part of this process is that once somebody's engaged with it, you've taken them from a viewer of the stream into a lead for your product or your service. So we're going to start building out our data about them. We're acquiring that information, and hopefully that's going to lead to sales that we can therefore measure as well. And the best thing about this is it can be done quickly, it can be done easily, it can be done over a short period of time. If you want to promote the fact that you've got a new TV show coming out, you can run it for a week beforehand. If you want to promote the fact that there's something longer term that you're doing, you can run longer campaigns as well, just the same way that you'd buy any other form of media.
Yeah, so it is a nice extension piece for, hey, we're doing a campaign over here. The gaming audience would fit for this campaign. Hey, we will book it across multiple streamers, multiple genres of games, trying to get that right fit for the audience. But then also, so you're getting that brand awareness, so you can get it at a CPM sort of space. But then
Yeah.
also that data acquisition, like let's capture the emails, let's capture the SMS, let's drag them into our CRM and start that conversation with gamers at that level. So you can sort of have those two objectives from a campaign and drive towards it.
Yeah, I mean, actually doing it on a omni-channel approach is really smart and sensible as well. So, the QR code, they were kind of forgotten about tool before COVID. They're back everywhere now. Run that same QR code that you're running in a catalog or in a bit of out of home or across some other form of your marketing mix. Run that within the gaming environment as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then from which is listing here a bunch of the different options that you can tackle for this particular type of campaign.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it's important to note that it's a great audience that are hard to reach elsewhere. This is really more of a sort of a broadcast style ad. It's not an MREC, it's not a display ad, it's not a pre-roll video. You've got to think about it in that aspect. You can run multiple different types of creative, and there are targeting elements available. If any of our viewers are interested in this type of campaign, the best thing to do is reach out to us. We'll have our details. We'll muck that up at the end. We can explain it in more detail then.
Yeah, and then from a campaigns point of view with our partners and what they've
Yeah,
been able to do, they've worked with
yeah,
different brands, like you said, whether it's Netflix launching a new show, Samsung selling phones,
yeah.
anything that they just sort of want to do the brand awareness, but then also that piece of how do we capture data, how do we run competitions, different types of clients.
Yeah, and what's really great about this is you're seeing the high click through rates there. Really driving results that can be measured. And again, it's not just the click through; it's what happens from there. It's measuring that is really important as well. And we're seeing really great results here. And like you say, there's some great partners there, and we'll be adding more in the Australian market very soon.
Well, as we said, we will stuff up our call to action to give us an email later on. But weareplaymedia.com is where you can find us if you want to join and activate in the gaming space. What we do every week is we look to explain a game. We look to help more marketers understand the different games, some of the opportunities in the games, some of the things that can work, and potentially some things you want to look out for. This week we're going back on one of the almost the OGs in the and one of the long-standing franchises, Counter Strike Global Offensive. Some people might know it as CS:GO. Um, Chris,
Mm-hmm.
tell us about Counter Strike.
Yeah, that's right. So Counter Strike, I think 20 odd years it's been around in its different iterations, and Global Offensive being the latest one. Essentially 5v5 first person shooter game, played in these sort of really small maps, highly detailed. It's the one that everyone thinks of when we think about brand safety challenges. It's terrorists versus counter terrorists. It's bombs, it's guns, it's blood. But that has its challenges. It's not going to be right for every brand. But what we should know, and we'll touch on this in a second, is the fan base, the viewers, the players, they love it, and they don't have an issue with brands that want to get involved with it. In fact, they actually embrace it and really like it. And one of the reasons we should be talking about it is particularly around the esports
Yep.
side of thing. I think if you flip to the
So
next
yeah,
slide, Sean.
you're a slide ahead of me, but like there's the playing of Counter Strike. It's like I said, been a consistent
Yeah,
performer. Has a few ups and downs, but been consistent and still growing. Again, back to our conversation last week of this game's not going to be around.
yeah,
Counter Strike is a stayer. It has rusted on both fan base, player base, and being those two things being different that do want to do it. And yes, we want to sort of go through the playbook. And one of the things in the playbook is, does it have an esport? Is it an esport? And it's a resounding yes in the world of Counter Strike, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it's kind of one of the two or three or four at a global level that are the sort of the fundamental esports that were there before it blew up and it got all the media attention that it's had over the last few years. So definitely, it's an esport. It's one of the most popular in terms of who's watching it. It's a slightly older audience than some of the other esports. This is a shot from IEM, which stands for Intel Extreme Masters, a big series of CSGO tournaments around the world. This one's from Sydney a couple of years ago. The plan last year was to move it to Melbourne. Obviously, COVID derailed that. It's going to happen this year, but only online. But what you really saw, if you went along and saw this, there were
Yep.
beach balls. There were people drinking beers out of shoes. It was rowdy. It was loud. The crowd were right into the games. They were right into the atmosphere. Sean, you've spent plenty of time at Bay 13 at the
Yes.
MCG. Pretty
No,
similar.
exactly, and it is the light bulb moment when people say, "Hang on, people watching video games events, it doesn't make sense." But yeah, I think I was actually at this IAM, and yeah, Twitch chat was shown on the big screen, and the Twitch chat side, the Aussie audiences are amazing. And so then, exactly the same as at 1980s, 1990s Bay 13, they just started singing Advance Australia Fair in the middle of the game, and it was just as raucous as a full Rod Laver arena at a basketball game, or an MCG on a Boxing Day test. And again, like you can look there, it's 18 to 34. That and they like all of the things that you would expect them to like. And like you said around the brand safety piece, they're watching films with that are in that are R-rated. Films like Deadpool have become mainstream, even though it's an R-rated film. It's the most highest grossing R-rated
Yeah,
film. So times have changed, and it's a super attractive market. There's plenty of opportunities. IEM is a great
yeah,
event, but there's also great opportunities to activate and reach this
yeah.
audience.
It's got a really strong online competitive esports landscape as well. Lots of top Australian esports teams have got CS:GO teams. They've been around for a long time. There's lots of new talent coming through. There's a pathway for them. It's not going to be the game for everybody, given the R rating, given the graphic nature of it. But if you're looking at esports, it's definitely one to consider. If you're looking at going down the route of a particular title, it's one to consider. It's not going to be right for everyone, like I said, but it's definitely such a strong game, strong audience who are really passionate, and they really do embrace brands that want to authentically get involved. I have to use the word
There we go.
authenticity, of course.
We've hit our quota for saying the word authenticity. We get two per episode. And I guess if you're looking at a like for like or the same in the sports world, there's a little similarity of UFC and MMA and the brands and the attraction and the audiences that are coming to that. And people having that same brand safety concerns. It's like, yes, but you understand what that audience is. MMA and
Yeah,
UFC is not the same as the NFL, the NBA, or AFL that provides a more family friendly offering. But it's still big
yeah.
business. There's brands that want to be in the space, that want to play and be edgy. That's where it is a really good space.
There's a really strong media side around CS:GO as well. If you haven't seen it, if you didn't know about it, I recommend everyone go to hltv.org.org. It's the ESPN or the Fox Sports of CS:GO. It's got scores, reviews, player profiles, news, the whole lot. And it's a great home for it. It's got all the news and views and everything. It kind of really shows the whole ecosystem that has evolved around all the online leagues, all the tournaments, all these major in venues, in stadium stuff that's happening, all the stuff around the players, the teams, the sponsors. It's all there. It's worth checking out.
And as an esport, it's relatively easy to understand once you understand that it's
Yeah,
5v5, and you've either got to defuse the bomb or capture capture it and wipe everybody out. And so the highs and lows and
yeah,
the cheers of a big kill or a takedown or a snipe when you don't the guy doesn't expect it is when you get those huge roars. And so yeah,
yeah,
it's a great spectacle. If you get a chance to, hopefully in the near future, go back to an event, highly recommend it. Well, we're getting to the end of the show. Lastly, what we do is share some other things in our Play Better Insights segment. What I do need to say is coming back and launching this week, Feb 22-23, is the LCO. The League of Legends
yeah,
Oceanic circuit is coming back. As we discussed in December when the OPL was dissolved, the LCO was formed. When we were talking about it, the new deal that was done with Riot Games, we didn't know the name. We now know the name. So Feb 23-24, the teams are coming back, ready for some action. It's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Gravitas goes. It's really exciting the fact that there is prize money put up for grabs. That hasn't been available for the last couple of years. So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how ESL delivers the product, and
Yeah.
exciting for the world of League of Legends esports here in this region.
All the top teams and all the top orgs are back this year. There's been a merger of one, so we've got a new entrant coming in as well, but they've got a bit of heritage in esports. It's going to be really exciting to see it come back, what this new format looks like. Hope the audiences come back. Hope brands get around it and
And
support it.
again, to follow up, cross promotion is one of the best forms of promotion. I actually interviewed Chris Greeley. He's the commissioner of the LCS. So the LCS is the League of Legends League in North America. One of the interesting facts that he dropped on that podcast was the LCS is the third most watched league in the 18 to 34 demographic in the US, which is amazing,
Yeah,
So I think NFL, NBA, and then LCS. So it's obviously that is their core market. On this chat, we do talk about the LCO and its formation. So if you want to dive a little bit more into the world of League of Legends and follow up from our discussion that we did in December when the LCO was announced and reformed with the guys at ESL and Guinevere Capital, have a listen to that. It starts giving you an idea also on. I spoke a lot to Chris about how esports is starting to do more commercialization, how they integrate partners,
yeah.
and so it's a really interesting
Yeah.
one for brands as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much talk about esports, and the fact that it's growing so quickly. Why do the sporting bodies care so much? Why do the media bodies care so much? It is because it's capturing that core demographic at rates that are but that are growing faster and getting larger than what some of the traditional sports have, or what some of the traditional media bodies have. So it's really great interview to get some of the insights from somebody who's leading one of those leagues in this space.
Terrific. And this is what we get to. We get to the final 30 seconds where we don't awkwardly say goodbye. These are our contact details. Chris, how can people reach out and contact you?
Yeah, look, the website, you've mentioned that before, weareplaymedia.com. My email address is pretty simple, chris@weareplaymedia.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, all the socials.
And likewise, Sean Callanan on all social platforms. Sean at weareplaymedia.com. You can find us at weareplaymedia.com. You can subscribe to this on YouTube, going to the Play Media YouTube channel. That's it for us this week. Until next week, it's cheers from me.
Cheers from me.
Nailed it!
Boom.